Hey guys, it's Chris, and this is going to be on Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 7, Heads Up Review. Of course, Glenn is alive after all, as most of us suspected, but I gotta say, I'm a little bit disappointed. Alright, so I'll get to Glenn in a second because I'm not such a fanboy of these shows that I can't criticize them. I know there's a lot of YouTube channels out there who do these show reviews and recaps and that type of thing and just, oh, it was great, it was awesome, it was fucking wonderful, and yeah, it's a great show and I love these shows. But I'm not such a fanboy that I'm not going to say when something's stupid. So I'll get to Glenn in just a minute. So let's quickly recap the rest of it. It's pretty straightforward, and I'll come back to the dumpster in the room. The elephant in the room. So we'll skip the beginning right now and kind of go in a non-linear fashion this week just for the sake of this Glenn discussion. So we'll start off with the part where Rick is walking around Alexandria. He's checking the walls, which seems to be leading up to something. Obviously, he's checking them. He's starting to build some reinforcements as the walkers are still kind of wandering around outside Alexandria. You would think they'd start to dissipate a little bit by now if they're quiet enough and kind of wander off back into the woods, but it was kind of cool to see that shot with the wall bleeding through the bullet hole, and that may have been some foreshadowing for what happened at the end, but we'll get to that in a second. And then we see Rick talking to Maggie as she kind of talks about Judith, kind of hinting that she's pregnant. Of course, I don't think she's told anybody else but Aaron, so I don't think Rick and them know this yet. Aaron. So we see Glenn find the note that the guy who turned into a walker wrote for his wife Betsy to take back to Alexandria, so that kind of hinted he was going to get that back to her. We see a quick shot of Gabriel, who we hadn't seen in a while. He's hanging a prayer poster up, and then Rick walks by and just rips it down, as in to say, we've lost all faith. And then we see a shot where Rick and Carl starting to teach Ron how to shoot. We come upon a scene where Rick wants to talk to Morgan, and then Carol gets involved as well as Michonne, and they talk to Morgan about, why did he let those people go. Rick explains that the guys that he let go were the ones that attacked him in the RV and prevented him from actually taking the walkers that they were trying to intercept and leading them away in the RV. So Morgan basically says that he's struggling with that decision. He's still not sure if he believes the whole life is precious, don't kill anybody shit that he learned from his mentor Splinter. So he's clearly still conflicted about it. And then it keeps showing this house cracking and falling apart that's on the outside of the fence, so we kind of knew what was coming. Shows a quick shot of Deanna coming up to Rick and Michonne, giving them the new plans for the expansion, saying that she's kind of ready to live again and ready to face this threat and go ahead and continue with the plans with the Alexandria expansion project. And then we see Rosita teaching these people how to fight with a knife or machete, or I guess a bladed weapon, and gives a hell of a speech to Eugene about being scared because he's a big. And then we see Enid again, who had helped out Glenn in the beginning, and again, I'll get to that in a second, but she's in this old restaurant. She seems to be, just kind of wondering and not wanting to go back to Alexandria. Obviously, she left in the first place, but she's always left and came back, but she doesn't seem to want to go back this time, and so we really don't know what's going on with her, but Glenn's trying to talk her into going back home. She pulls a gun on him, saying, "Get away from me." He takes it from her and gets her to eventually go back with him to Alexandria. I don't think at this point she's really working with the wolves. Perhaps she's working with the new group that we're about to see, the Saviors or something like that, or at least has been involved with that group before. We really don't know what's going on with her, but something's up with her. But I'm not sure if it is as significant as we thought it was before, where we thought, she's working with the wolves. She seemed to kind of come around towards the end of the episode when they got back to Alexandria. And then we see this little bastard Ron. He's still holding this grudge. He's pretending to be a nice guy, and he sneaks into the armory to get some bullets for the gun that Rick had given him. And then we see Glenn and Enid arrive at Alexandria and see all the walkers around the area. So they had those balloons that they had for the big zombie migration plan, and they had filled those up with helium to create some kind of distraction. And then this idiot Spencer has this ninja grappling hook that apparently he bought at a flea market at some point. It somehow slung it across to a building outside of the gates and tried to escape with his weapon to go and apparently be a hero and grab a car to lead the walkers away. Well, he about dies, and Rick ends up saving him. He gets pissed off, and of course this is a Ricktatorship, so he's like, if you have a plan, you come to me with it. I'm not sure he was thinking, but then again, it kind of showed how Rick's kind of overstepping things a bit still. But we're starting to see some of the other characters like Michonne and a couple others kind of start to put Rick in check and saying, look, we're all in this together. because he's still like it's us and them, but you know, you see the other one starting to integrate into the group a little bit more. And then we see Morgan go back to the doctor and get some antibiotics apparently, or at least has her follow him and explains he's got a secret. He's got this wolf guy, you know, in his house, and he's got an injury, and he's trying to still save this guy, even after this talk he had with Rick and Michonne and Carol. And then Carol sees them walking, takes Judith to be taken care of, and follows them and discovers that he's got somebody hidden in that house. But I do know what Carol wants to do about it. And then we see Ron with his newly acquired ammo. He pulls out the gun behind Carl walking down the street, and that's when Deanna comes up and thanks Rick for saving Spencer. Then we see the balloons that Glenn and Enid had filled up, and let those go apparently for a signal. And everybody in the town sees it, so they know that it is Glenn. They know he's alive. Everybody's kind of elated and excited about it. And of course, this is when the old house or building that's right outside the gate that we had been seeing cracking and crumbling the entire episode, it comes crashing down and breaks the fucking gate open. So of course, next week, all hell's going to break loose and leave us with some big cliffhanger before the mid-season finale ends. So it was a pretty straightforward episode. Overall, I did like the episode, but let me come back to the Glenn survival. So in the beginning, of course, we see Glenn, and then we saw the shot that we were missing that confirmed what we all thought, that Glenn survived, and that it was in fact Nicholas being eaten by zombies. We all kind of thought that anyway, just because of the angle of the shot, and they tried to trick us into believing that he was getting eaten, but he slides under this damn dumpster. Now, I have a problem with this. Don't get me wrong. I love Glenn. I want him to live, like most people do. But here's the thing. If that wasn't some type of hallucination, and he in fact fell off that dumpster, I don't care how they tried to explain it, you would not get out of that alive. Something would get chewed on. So I have a problem with this. He slid under a dumpster, which, you know, somebody could barely do. I don't think most dumpsters people could, but I'm assuming there's probably some out there that you probably could. His body on top of him is not going to protect him entirely. It may for a second, but he doesn't have time. He's got hands and feet and legs hanging out, and the horde of walkers surrounding him. Something's getting chewed on. So he slides up under the dumpster, and of course, he has a couple walkers trying to reach under there and get him. So if they were trying to get him under the dumpster, they should have already been chewing on his legs and ankles and hands, etc., while he was laying on the fucking ground before he got under the dumpster. So what I don't like is that they teased that, killing off a main character, and they didn't follow through with it. Another thing is the angle that they fell in the first place. When they fell off the dumpster, they should have been facing away from the dumpster as far as their heads, and their feet would have been more towards the dumpster. Well, of course, in the shot where you see Nick's guts being ripped out, Glenn's head's right beside the dumpster. So he fell completely wrong and somehow did a 180 in midair with two bodies, and he was then able to just slide right under the dumpster about 2 feet away from him head first. Apparently he had enough room in this tiny dumpster to keep all his limbs in under there without being chewed on. So apparently he just waited this thing out, had a little bit of water, waited for all the zombies to kind of disappear. It's odd to me that they would just kind of disappear knowing Glenn's under that dumpster alive, but they still hang around this fucking gate around Alexandria and won't just kind of shuffle off back to the woods. So I gotta say, AMC screwed up here. If you're going to have a character die, have them die. Don't tease it like that and then make an impossible situation possible by having him slide under a dumpster. Something has to get chewed on in that situation. I could see him getting under there. I could see him not getting completely devoured because he did have protection for a few seconds, but something, arms, legs, or something's getting chewed on. So I'm kind of disappointed on how they did that, but I think they're probably doing that only so they can probably follow the comics a little bit closer and probably meet Lucille later on. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I like the episode overall. I like where it's going, but I don't like that they have a main character there. They tease killing him off, and then they make the impossible possible by sliding under a dumpster without a single scratch or bite or whatever. And I just don't buy it. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Are you happy with the episode overall? And are you happy that they kind of teased Glenn dying and then let him live when there was a seemingly impossible situation to get out of? I understand the whole suspension of disbelief. After all, this is a show about a zombie apocalypse. But that's a whole different story. I mean, this was a situation where something's getting bit. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Have more videos coming. In the meantime, you can click here for the History of the Jedi video. I did part 1 and 2 of that. They're both published, so check those out. And also you can click here for the last Game of Thrones Q&A I did, where I talk about several topics, including Bran's visions in Book 5 of Dance with Dragons. So check those out. Let me know what you think. Thanks again, you guys, for everything. I appreciate all the support. Be sure to subscribe to get everything. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.